But also I think there are writers who think about their translations when they write. There are writers who think about their translators when they write. There are writers who, I think, like to cause trouble for their translators. They do very deliberately do things that make our lives difficult. And in a sense, the translation, like the awareness that this is going to have to be, like, at some point, Danny's going to have to translate this doing it. It's going to be really funny if I put another poem in. Those things, there are, with the writers I've worked with a lot, there are in-jokes in the originals for me to get 3 years later when I come around to translating the book. Because actually a lot of the time, if you're lucky enough to work with a writer on more than one book, sometimes it's quite a long-term, quite an intimate, relationship you have with them. And there are also, I think, a lot of writers who have the habit of working sufficiently closely with their translators. I remember commissioning a story from Valeria Luiselli a few years ago, a great Mexican writer, who now writes largely in English, but she was originally writing in Spanish, translated by Cristina McSweeney. And I remember commissioning this story from her and writing to her and saying, I know Cristina hasn't translated it, but can I have the Spanish in the meantime just to read it so I can see? And she wrote and said something like, the Spanish won't be absolutely fixed until the translation has been done. Because she got feedback and she saw what worked in English, and then she kind of went back to Spanish when actually, that is a little bit, that could be slightly shaped differently. And that's the thing that it's not that it was, published in Spanish, absolutely fixed, crystallized, unchangeable, and then it gets passed on. This is a thing that is still quite malleable at the point at which it's being translated, and therefore it is possible for those two things to, for the translator's fingerprints to be in the original a little bit as well.